The Nevada Broadcasters Association presents the most listened to public affairs program in the great state of Nevada. This is Observations, coming to you from the four corners of the Silver State. Also available on Facebook at Nevada Observations and heard at nevadabroadcasters.org. Now, in his 18th year hosting Observations, here is Bob Fisher.
For 20 years, Observations has had as its theme the public's right to know. Sometimes we talk about fluff, sometimes we talk about very, very serious things. Sometimes we address political issues or different situations that really cannot be ignored. And other times we talk about subjects that are really difficult to listen to. And I am so grateful that Gary and I have a very loyal base of listeners all across the state of Nevada, all across 17 counties, airing on 36 stations, 36 radio stations every single week. I have a first-time guest last week who introduced herself and introduced the project that's Nevada 150. And I'm so happy that Meli Pulido is consented to do a second show so that we could continue the discussion and take the discussion in ways that sometimes you don't expect for a radio station to carry or for a public affairs program to deal with. For example, besides welcoming you back, I want you to talk about the political tug of war that I alluded to last week, because somehow, somewhere, there's got to be a response or an answer or a solution that instead of this country be divided on how we deal with homeless or how we deal with those who are starving to death or hungry. I've been very fortunate in my life, Meli. But I can tell you, when I lived in Los Angeles, my relatives and friends knew when it was the fourth week of a month. Because all of a sudden, Bobby Fisher was calling them and saying, what are you doing tonight? Can I stop by? And then knowing that they're going to say, well, would you like to stay for dinner? Yes. I know I'm going to have a meal. I mean, it was pretty tough. And I think with this economy and even though it's gotten so much better, there's so much pain. The woman in the grocery store who I've mentioned before, I didn't know. How do you know if a piece of meat is a good piece of meat or a bad piece of meat? And do you just go by weight? Do you go by the cost? Do you go by the color? And the woman who I asked that question of, she says, well, I wouldn't know because we don't serve meat. We can't afford it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There is a political tug of war. There is a political debate.
There is.
How are we going to solve it?
You know what? I can't solve political debates, but I can speak to people and I can share my passion and the awareness of the problem. And most people who have that compassion and share that passion to be able to make a difference in somebody else's life will surface. The others will kind of take two steps back and continue with their political tug of war. And here's one way that I can give you as an example. We have a very strong base of volunteers. And the volunteers range...
Project 150, by the way, is not only in southern Nevada, but it's also in northern Nevada.
In northern Nevada, 4 schools in Reno. And
how many schools in Las Vegas?
35.
35 schools with homeless kids going to high school. It breaks my heart.
Yes. One of the things that I'd like to emphasize on is that there are a lot of very good agencies, resource agencies in Las Vegas. And what's important is that Project 150, I'm always excited to collaborate with new agencies, and I enjoy learning what services they provide, because if you focus on the end result, which is ultimately helping these students succeed past graduation, empowering them to be career and college ready, tend to see the benefit of collaborating with other agencies. And we're very blessed to have other agencies that assist. And
But it's almost an oxymoron talking about kids who are classified as homeless, but they're driven to go to high school and to get a degree.
Mhm.
How does that happen?
It happens because, one, they have the desire. It's their willpower, it's their perseverance, it's their determination to not be a statistic.
Can you bottle it? Can you
I
actually
wish
bottle
we
it and
could.
sell it? I mean, seriously.
I wish we could, because you shared earlier that your experience with some students, that gentleman approached them and said,
Count your blessings.
count your blessings.
He's living in a mission.
Right. So sometimes it's that awareness, getting the kids involved at a young age to not take things for granted. We have many different programs with Project 150 that allow families to come in and volunteer. One of them is our teen shopping days. We convert a community center or a community area, bring all of our inventory in, clothing, school supplies, toiletries, and turn it into as much as we can and as close as we can to a boutique. And we allow high school students and their families to come in. The high school students are required to have a high school ID. That is it. We don't minimize their need, nor do we disrespect them by asking uncomfortable questions. The fact that they stand in line for 2 hours to come into the building is significant enough. Absolutely significant enough of their need.
So, do they buy these items?
They shop. And at the end of their shopping experience, through their shopping experience, we have over 100 volunteers that are called shopping assistants. They help. They play music. We have a DJ. We have a fashion show. We have fun stuff going on to make them feel like they're in a mall. Granted, we're still missing ficus trees and nice pretty mirrors and sitting areas, but the atmosphere is there. At the end of their shopping experience, they walk out through volunteer checkout areas, and all we do is inventory what was taken, not so much because we are going to charge them, but only to help us with the inventory of what happened with the donations we received. The nonprofit stuff that we need to comply with. That student is allowed to walk away with jeans, tennis shoes, whatever they needed, toiletries, school supplies, a brand new backpack, and feel the dignity that stayed with them through that shopping experience.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving and what people can do, and Christmas, what people are going to do, can do. As a member of the Las Vegas Rotary Club, we have a fabulous event, Santa Claus. It's unbelievable. Thank you, J.C. Penney, and thank you all the people who contribute. I don't know, I think we're almost up to about 400 Clark County young kids who are identified by the schools, by the way. And they come early in the morning, a couple weeks before Christmas, and they're given credit. Say they're given $250 credit to buy brand new clothes. They can't buy toys. They can't buy, technical things. It's got to be clothes. And for 90 minutes, these kids are in heaven because they're shopping for new clothes. I remember one time, one of the kids that I was with, the sales girl said, but you can get more. You can get more. And he said, no, this is enough for me. Or the response, that what you're wearing, you're going to outgrow in about 5 months. And the response was, but I have a neighbor down the street, and I know that he's going to love to have it. And then the greatest scene of all. The kids love the tennis shoes, that change colors and light up when they're walking and that. So there was one little kid who refused to take off his tennis shoes. Absolutely refused. But they got to check out because, the kids can spend so much money and we need to know how much they've spent and that kind of thing. So one of the adults picked up this little kid and brought him through
Scan
the
him through.
scanner. And they scanned him with his shoes. There is such joy to be able to help and do things. I am concerned because the years pass by like months, the months pass by like weeks, the weeks pass by like days.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Thanksgiving and Christmas. What do you need, and what can volunteers do, and what should the public be aware of?
Well, what we need is donations. That is the one time that we do ask for the monetary support, because we put on a very good menu for the holidays with help with from 3 Square. We are able to purchase a whole meal bag, holiday meal bag for a family of 4 for $25 through 3 Square. And
So if someone would donate a check for $25, that would feed
family of 4 at a minimum.
Wow.
Yes, a family of 4. And we've created this menu. So for Thanksgiving, we'll have 200 volunteers in our small volunteer center that will assemble these meal bags, and it's turkey breast, pre-cooked turkey breast, all the side dishes, but they have to be ready to eat. So it's a pop-up can or macaroni and cheese in a bowl that can just go into a microwave at a convenience store if need be. So we provide 1,100 of those bags to 1,100 students for Thanksgiving for a family of 4 each. That's 4,400 families, 4,400 people we're feeding each holiday.
Wow,
yes,
wow.
for $25. But think about it. I mean, what could someone out in the community give up that would be able to save $25? Coffee alone. I stand behind people at Starbucks and they pay $8 a cup of coffee by the time they're done adding everything to their coffee. So I would ask for the holidays. Those are the only 2 times that we ask for. Make it. Don't send us the can of foods. We've already created the menu from 3 Square. They're already shipping everything.
What
That's
goes
a
on in
purchase.
Reno?
Reno is not doing the holiday meals yet, but they will be doing that soon. So.
And do you find that you have more people to feed Christmas than you do at Thanksgiving, or is it the same?
Same. Yeah, we did 1,100 meal bags for Thanksgiving as well as Christmas. And I'll tell you that our goal was 500 because the first year was 250. I figured let's challenge everybody and let's go 500. Well, that was a budget goal. The need to feed the students was double that number. And we were excited because the superintendent came with us. He did some of the deliveries with us. We delivered directly to the high schools. And again, it's keeping the students anchored and tied to the school. Education is the priority. Our advocacy is education and success. Be ready for college. Be ready for workforce. How we're doing that? Through school supplies, food, toiletries, clothing into the schools.
If you imagine a neighborhood, whether it's in a small town or it's in Reno or Carson or Las Vegas, but the worst neighborhood, just the worst neighborhood.
I've lived in them.
A couple years ago, with a very, very good friend and her son, we went and volunteered at a church that had gathered all these gifts, and the distribution of the church was going to be in the neighborhood. And it was, I believe, in a park, or actually I think it was on asphalt where there were long tables set up. The kids waited in line to get their Christmas presents, their Christmas goodies, etc. All of a sudden, you look out and it's not asphalt and graffiti. You're looking at a magic place where all of a sudden all these kids are smiling and all these kids are having toys and all these kids are having snacks. Thanksgiving is coming. Christmas is coming. But you would probably say, but for us, every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day, and I'll share a quick story, if I may, with you. I was at a school last week, and when we talk about Thanksgiving and holidays, and families are planning this huge menu. I was speaking at a school, and this young lady asked to speak to me privately after my presentation, and 2 feet outside the classroom, she broke down and she says, "I'm you." And I said, "Excuse me?" By the time I turned around, she was already in tears. We get to a classroom. She drapes her arms around me, and she's crying. She says, "I was 9 when I started being an adult. I was 9 when I came to this country, and I've been the head of household since I was 9. You talk about the holiday distribution meal." She says, "I worry how I'm going to split 1 granola bar between 3 siblings. I'm not included in that equation. I worry about how I'm going to make my mom comfortable without the proper medical attention, without the proper medicine. I Google home remedies." She says, I don't have a childhood memory with laughter in it. I went from a toddler to an adult. This isn't a school. She met me in a classroom. This is a young lady with a GPA of 3.7. And although she has to miss school because there's times priorities, family responsibilities and obligations demand that she stay at home or miss school, she's still showing up and having an excellent GPA. And when we think about Thanksgiving, I ask the listeners, can you spare $25 to feed a family like this young lady? Because like that young lady's story, there are 1,000 others out there.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. A great big thank you to our friends at Walker Furniture. Thank you for your support of the Nevada Broadcasters Association, and thank you for your support of Observations.
Hi, this is Mary Wilson of the Supremes, and I'm coming to you from all across the great state of Nevada. You're listening to Observations with my pal, Bob Fisher. Ooh.
We're talking about Project 150, which is in Las Vegas, and it is in Reno. We're talking with, are you CEO, executive director?
Executive director. I say executive volunteer.
Hey, whatever works. Meli Pulido, who has been with us last week and this week. The story you just told is pretty emotional. It's pretty draining, especially if you realize that you can multiply it times thousands.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was literally
Absolutely.
Thousands. I used an expression last week when I started the show from the movie Testament, and that was when the world deserves its children. I think sometimes we can see almost anything and we can process it, but you can't see hunger in the face of a child and not be bothered. You can't see just being alone, just having no positive reinforcement. And yet you take that whole concept and have twisted it to say, well, why do we give up with kids that we automatically think have dropped out? You don't take no for an answer.
I don't. I'm a little stubborn or passionate, call it what you will. But I just think that people need to be educated. When they make comments like that again, either they just need a little education on the awareness of the problem, and then they buy into supporting the cause and helping us as volunteers in one capacity or another. Or again, if it's a political tug of war where they think it shouldn't be the government's responsibility, they surface, they walk away, not a big problem, not a big deal, because there's sufficient help. There's people, our community is very generous. We have a volunteer who was donating money to us, and we expressed concerns about, nobody's hiring our homeless high school students. There's no experience. There's no tangible resume, documentation. There's no parents to guide them in that. Who's giving them a chance? Not everyone is, other than a car wash. Who's really out there? So brainstorming, this family who's very, very rooted with Project 150, Bill says let's do a career fair. I'm a subcontractor in residential building. I'll bring all of our subcontractors, and you take Nevada Subcontractors Association, for instance. They said, Meli, what do you guys need? Let's put together a career fair. Let's do this. 26 high school students were hired on the spot.
Wow.
23 more 2 weeks following. But what did our volunteers do? They didn't just say career fair. Let's just plan resume and writing skills, interviewing skill workshops, and mock interviews. Get these kids sharp and prepared. We had business wear attire set on the side of the room. So if they weren't dressed appropriately, we offered them to go into our little boutique, find a suit, find a dress, find the proper attire. That's giving them a boost. That's helping them walk with their chin up.
We actually have a program coming up that we do every year with Janet Blumen, who is the founder of Foundation for an Independent Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Same concept that you have, but at a different level. And that was, there are a lot of people struggling because they're at a minimum wage, mm-hmm. and they can't survive on a minimum wage. And so the Foundation for an Independent Tomorrow, exactly what you're doing, said, we're going to train them. We are going to help them learn mm-hmm. how to do a resume, how mm-hmm. to interview. Mm-hmm. We are going to provide clothing that goes along with the training, goes along with the interview. And I think since the last time Janet was on, they've added a second floor to their building.
Beautiful.
And, we are talking about people who are making a real good living when before they were just surviving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The element of helping someone, doing a service learning experience with the element of paying it forward, it's truly a key factor in what we do. We don't like to say we just help and feed without a constructive learning experience. We want them to pay it forward. We want them to tell us what they're lacking, what they wish for, what is their passion. I think the focus should be more helping them break the cycle and the circumstances they're in, restoring their dreams, and helping them begin new legacies, because it's not our legacy. It's their legacy. We're just the vehicle to help them get there.
But when I look at you as the vehicle, doing what you do, it's so much easier not to do what you're doing.
It's not as rewarding, though. It's priceless. I came from a government career of 25 years, making a very healthy income. The amount of hours that I invest in Project 150, it's truly made by passion. I don't regret 1 hour, 1 minute that we invest. It could be a seven-day week. I'm okay with that because we're making a difference. Because one day, one of those students that we're helping will turn around and help 10 other kids. That awareness and that experience that someone believed in him or her, they're going to pay it forward.
All right. So in the closing minutes of today's program, and basically also following last week's program, people can send money. Mm-hmm. What else?
Project150.org is our webpage. They can donate monetary donations, which, let's face it, every nonprofit organization needs money to survive.
Everyone.
Every single one. We have 2 part-time paid employees. Everybody else are volunteers. And we have donations that they can donate: clothing, school supplies, toiletries, business people. We need suits. We need shoes for the young men, prom dresses for the young ladies, everything from casual to formal. And obviously, the biggest and most priceless donation our community can give us is that of their time. volunteer for one of our events.
If someone wants to donate clothes, how do they go about doing that?
You could go on our website and pick a donation site that's closest to you, or they could donate directly to our volunteer center.
And where are some of the sites?
We have them all over the valley. Depending on, we have 3 or 4 in Summerlin, we have Henderson, Green Valley, the East Side, and our volunteer centers on Dean Martin and Stewart. Our teen shopping days, for example, we had 1,181 attendees walk through the door on our last teen shopping day. 539 students were helped through the shopping checkout. 90 schools were represented.
Wow.
Those are numbers that, I want those numbers to go lower, to be lower. That means that the problem is not as big.
But you can't even put your arm around it because it's everywhere.
It is. It is. And we'll have kids take 3 or 4 buses to get to us, ride their bikes 3 or 4 miles just to get to us, to be able to grab a new pair of shoes. And what's touching for me is that most of these kids will ask, may I have a pair of shoes for my mom? How many pairs of shoes may I take? And this is how they ask it, ma'am, how many pairs of shoes can I take? And you have to go deeper than that question. Well, do you need an athletic pair? Do you need sportswear and then you need a dress shoe? I know the answer is going to be no. It's going to be for another family member that they're looking out for. So we allow them to take it. If we have the sizes, take it. Because remember, we're only collecting items that are teen appropriate sizes.
What's your proudest moment being in the position that you are?
My proudest moment has to be the volunteers. Because behind everything that I shared with you today, there's a volunteer that's been involved with it and making that action happen. Without our volunteers and the generosity of our donors, Project 150 would not be in 35 schools here and 4 in Reno.
How did you get into the schools? That's pretty tough.
You know what? It's very tough. I must say it's tough, but the superintendent believes in us. The superintendent knows the value of collaboration. And again, we're not there to take anybody else's spot. We're there to maximize and complement each other's services for the students.
If people want more information, and Gary's going to make sure that last week and this week the information's on our Nevada Observations Facebook page, as well as everywhere that we are promoting this program. How does someone get a hold? And Gary will write it down.
Sure. Project150.org is the website. And then our office number is 702-721-7150.
Say that number again.
702-721-7150.
And for those of you who are driving in the car or don't have a pencil, you never have a pencil when you need it, please understand that we will promote it on our website, because we find that at last count, there are over 2,000 people who listen to this program only on the website.
Wow.
And
thank you, listeners.
Hey, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How did you get such a big heart?
Yeah, it just, I think it's not the environment in which we're raised, it's the love and the values that we're taught. And I'm very proud of my parents for having 3rd grade education and being so smart to know what values we need in.
And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to Eric Benici, who is the executive director of the Nevada Broadcasters Foundation.
Nice.
And maybe, just maybe, in that list of homeless kids who are graduating high school, there may be someone who wants to get a job in radio.
Love it.
Or wants to get a job in television. And the Nevada Broadcaster Foundation this fall is sending, I believe, we've given 34 scholarships, most of whom are full tuition.
Beautiful.
And there's an internship, and there's a mentoring, and Gary, I hate saying goodbye, especially when I have a guest as wonderful as this. Thank you so much, Meli. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Sure. Until next week, everybody. This is Observation.
You've been listening to Observations with Bob Fisher, a production of the Nevada Broadcasters Association, aired in cooperation with this station. Observations updates are on Facebook at Nevada Observations, and we're streaming around the world. Be listening next week at this same time for another installment of Observations with Bob Fisher. Archived Observations programs are available at nevadabroadcasters.org, along with career opportunities for our state's broadcasters. This is producer Gary Campbell. Thanks for listening.